All right, here are some of the tools that you'll need to start your practice features. I'd recommend that you have either a mirror or a picture that you can look at of the different facial features that you're trying to create. You'll also need a few pottery tools. This is a little over a pound of clay, much more than you'll need. You just need a little bit to practice. This demonstration, also a water cup. This demonstration is going to be over how to create the lips, okay? And I am going to start with the closed mouth for this practice. So you can see a few different examples of what that looks like. Okay, I'll just set those to the side. So you're going to take your clay, you want to rip it into a few different sections. And you want to start kind of just with a flat base. Okay, so I'm going to use my hand. Since these aren't going to be fired, they're just practice. You don't need to worry about wedging it, but you do want to have it be a useful practice. So kind of flatten out your clay, make it as smooth as possible so you can start adding on your different details. Now for the lips, you're going to start with two separate coils. So I'm going to take just a little bit of clay and roll them into my coils. You can also roll on the canvas to kind of create those coils. They should be relatively small. Okay, this is the scale that we're working with. So you want your coils to be about twice as big as how they're going to end up in the end. And actually, I can probably just use this one coil and cut it into two separate parts. Make sure you're rolling your coils nice and even. Remember to do that. You're starting with your fingers together in the middle and moving your fingers apart as you roll to the outer edges. All right, and then make sure that you can see in your mirror kind of what your lips, or in your picture, what the lips that you're going to be creating look like to use as a good resource. I am going to start by cutting this coil kind of at the angle in which my lips go. So I'm going to start with the upper lip. Okay, and you should see the shape kind of start to form right from the beginning. So I'm going to kind of pull out that coil a little bit more because I need it a little bit thinner than what I created. And notice the angle at which I cut the coil to create that lip. So the next thing that I'm going to do is kind of start already adding in the shape of my lip. So it's not a perfectly horizontal coil. There is a little bit of dimension in the direction in which the coil moves. So I'm going to add that in. And you'll see I've already kind of started to create that nice lip shape. All right, so that's going to go on top right there. Okay, and then I'm going to roll out the other part of that coil. The bottom lip naturally, for most people, is a little bit larger. So just kind of keep that in mind. This coil, you're probably going to keep it a little bit wider than you did for the top lip. Okay, but for most people, the upper lip is longer. So that should fit kind of right inside there. I need to cut this at more of an angle. Okay, and same thing, I want to keep kind of that nice round shape. That's going to fit right together to create those lips. So what I want to do is, since I want this to actually be usable information, I'm going to actually attach it to my form just like I did if I was doing my actual portrait project. So I'm marking with the needle tool where I need to score my clay in order to attach the two pieces. After I have those marks, I can come back, kind of scratch up the surface to score it. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side of the upper lip. And then you should have a cup of water that you're going to use as your slip to attach the two pieces. Now here's kind of where the first trick comes into play. You do not want to touch the bottom edge of the top lip. Okay, you're only going to work with the top edge of the top lip and the bottom edge of the bottom lip. So what I mean by that is I'm kind of leaving that natural coil definition in my clay on the bottom of the upper lip, and I'm going to use my wooden tool on the top part of the lip to actually smooth that clay into the form. At this point, again, I want to reference my mirror or my picture, and I want to make sure that I'm creating the shape as I see it. Okay, so here the corners kind of come up a little bit. when my face is resting. So I'm gonna start to already sculpt that, smoothing the clay into the form. And then my lips don't come out that much. If I were to look at the side angle, okay, they don't come out that much. So I'm gonna kind of push that coil in a little bit, but I don't wanna lose the roundness of the form that I've created. So eventually when you do your upper lip, you will kind of build some of this clay up on top, okay, because that's naturally how your lips lay on your face. You can start working with that center part of my upper lip, adding that in. I may take a little bit of clay and kind of build up this area here. I do the same thing on the other side. And I'm just using my fingers to kind of create the overall shape of the lip, right? Then I can go back, smooth this out, create that more definition in there. All right, then we're gonna leave that for now, and we're gonna come back to it in just a second. We're gonna add the bottom lip in. Okay, so when I do this, I wanna kind of keep the natural shape of the coil where it meets the upper lip, but towards the bottom edge, that's where I need to smooth it out. So again, I'm gonna mark out that shape. Okay, that way it can slip and squirt into place. Scoring on both sides that are gonna be attached. Adding water. And then pressing it into place. Make sure you get a nice seal. Okay, you don't want to just set it on there, otherwise once it dries it will come apart. Make sure you actually press it into place. And then again, we're leaving the upper part of the bottom lip, and we're just going to smooth out the bottom part. So I'm using my wooden tool to kind of bring that together. And my bottom lip is not that wide, so I'm going to pull a little bit more clay into the bottom of my form as needed to create the actual shape that I see in the mirror. Okay, as I'm doing this, I notice I do have some clay that I need to kind of build up a little bit. I have two areas right here. So I'm gonna build that up, and then I'm gonna build this up. And then it kind of comes down and in, and then my chin starts underneath that, but you won't see that in this practice. And then from there, after you have kind of the basic shape, it's just a matter of working with the fine details to make it look more like whoever you are trying to create for your practice features. Okay, as I do this, I notice I have an area where this kind of comes up and meets. Same thing here, it gets much thinner. Just gonna use my fingers to kind of create that. And then my lip almost comes down here and creates an indent right there. So I'm going to use the wooden tool to kind of create that effect. Okay, so at this point you just really have to mess around with it to get your finer details that you see. The biggest thing is don't mess with this too much of that center line, because you don't want to lose that definition within the lips themselves. Okay, the last thing that you'll probably see, you may be able to see some of the wrinkles within the skin of your lip, and so you may take a needle tool. I would recommend getting it wet so you don't create any beads of clay, and you're just going to kind of follow the contour of your lip to kind of add in those lines. Generally, it's just kind of in the middle of your upper lip and the middle of your bottom lip. Okay, I'm going to add those in, get my finger wet, Just kind of lightly go over them to get rid of any beads of clay. And as I'm doing this, I notice that this part kind of comes in and then my cheeks start, and I have pretty full cheeks, so I'd probably come in and add some clay around here and then smooth that out so that part's built up realistically as well. Okay, you kind of want to do the area around the mouth too and not just the lips. It's going to be more beneficial when it comes to actually doing your portrait. Okay, so taking my time and kind of refining each of the edges, my end results should look something like this or this, depending on kind of the form of my lips that I was looking at, but that's kind of the basics of doing the practice facial feature for your mouth.